Hey everyone, this is Heidi Gusted with another knitting video tutorial. In today's video, we're going to take a look at German short rows. So looking over here at these German short rows in action on our needles, I've got cast on 10 stitches for demonstration's sake. And we're going to start working with just garter stitch. So what I'm going to do is work 6 of these 10 stitches, so 1 stitch past the center, which is what you do sometimes if you're going to use these German short rows in a heel. But please remember, when you're working short rows, even when you have the concept down and you're really good at it, always be really careful of your stitch count, because if you screw up your stitch count, the shape of the finished project will be different than what the designer intended, and then it'll look different than what you're hoping to achieve. Just a pro tip. All right, so I've knit 6 stitches. And there are still 4 stitches in my row. But since these are short rows and my pattern, we're going to pretend my pattern just told me to turn my work. Since the pattern just said to turn the work, we'll turn it now, even though there's those 4 unworked stitches on the needle. So to do the German short row, what we're going to do is slip the first stitch without working it from the left needle to the right. Then, with our working yarn towards us, that's a concept to keep in mind when you're doing German short rows, is to have the working yarn toward you after every turn. So we have the yarn toward us, and now we're going to jump rope it over to the back. So the yarn's towards us, jump it over to the back of your work. Doing that opens up your stitch, and so now it looks like there's actually 2 stitches here, even though there's just the 1. So just keep in mind that it looks like 2, but it's still just functionally 1 stitch. And now we're going to knit back this way. I'll just do a couple stitches before turning our work again. All right. And so just like last time, we're going to slip that first stitch, starting with the yarn towards us. So I'm slipping it, and because this is a German short row, jump roping that yarn to the back, opening the stitch up. Now here's the other key concept. We're going to knit just the plain stitch, but now we're already back at that open stitch. If you look at the needle, it's kind of like an X where the stitches meet. There's this ridge at the top of the needle, and the stitch is all open. You'll work this open stitch as 1, even though it appears as 2 loops on your needle. So we'll work that to close it, like so. And then we'll knit 1 stitch farther before turning our work. Turning our work again to show you these garter stitch short rows one last time. We'll slip 1, yarn towards us, jump rope over the needle to the back, opening up the stitch, and then we'll knit like this, coming to that other open stitch, knitting both of those, sort of looking like they're stitches as 1, and working 1 past it. And then eventually in your pattern, they'll either have you work till you run out of stitches, or it'll say to continue knitting the row. So looking at this work on the needle, you can see the shape here. Right here are loops that have never been worked in our knitting. Right here is where we've worked those stitches extra times, and then these are worked just once. And so, if we were doing this over a larger stitch count and for longer, our garter stitch German short rows would look like these bumps in this swatch. You can do the same German short row technique in stockinette stitch, which is orange in this swatch here, and I'll show you how that works. So here's how to work German short rows in stockinette. So just like we did for the garter stitch example, I've got 10 stitches cast on, and I'm going to work 1 stitch past the center, so 6 stitches. Just like before, remember to count your stitches very carefully so that your finished project looks like it should. All right, 5 and 6. Now we're going to turn our work to the wrong side, and since this is stockinette, we do have a right and wrong side. And so on the wrong side, this works just like garter stitch German short rows. So we slip that first stitch, keeping the yarn towards us, flip, jump rope that yarn over, opening the stitch up. And then since this is stockinette, the yarn's at the back, we need to bring it between our needles to the front so we can purl a couple of stitches. to keep the stockinette stitch look. So there's 2 stitches purled, and now I'm going to turn the work to the right side. So now on the right side, this is where things differ between garter and stockinette. So we slip this first stitch, but we need the yarn to be in front. So remember before when I kept saying, make sure your yarn's in front, make sure your yarn's in front, this is where it really matters, is in stockinette. Because in garter, it was already toward you. In stockinette, you have to manually put your working yarn toward you, like this. Now we are going to slip this first stitch from the left needle to the right, and then we're going to bring our working yarn over to the back, like so. So it's the same action as before, but our stitch is going to twist a little different. The stitch comes kind of in a more of a pointy shape than the open shape of the other side, but it's the same concept. Now with our yarn in back, we'll knit until we come to that open stitch from before, and just like in the garter stitch German short rows, we'll work both of those loops as one and continue knitting past it. Now we'll turn our work, come to the other side, yarn toward us, we'll slip the 1 stitch, bring the yarn to the back, opening that stitch up, bring the yarn to the front, and we'll purl and purl until we get to the other open stitch. And you can see it's all open. We need to make sure the bump that we created when we brought the yarn over is on the top of the needle. And just like with the garter version of this, we need to work both of those loops together as our purl stitch and continue knitting. So I'm just going to slide these stitches on so we can take a look at our work. So right here, once again, you can see how this cast on edge curves because there are extra stitches where we worked our short rows. Looking again at our swatch right here, you can see that we've worked those extra short row stitches, resulting in a shape that can be used for a heel. You can also find German short row shaping in sweaters. Sometimes you find them in really cute little baby bloomers when you need extra room for like a baby diaper. And so short rows are just a really great way to add some extra space to your work, and you find them a lot when you're working with knitting clothing. So once you wrap your head around German short rows, you can see how useful and versatile they can be in your knitting. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment and we'll get back to you. And tune in again soon for another knitting video tutorial.